I got his business card and everything.
What, I
Told me who he was. You gotta love that type of person. Yeah, my dad runs a company. You can use that all the time too.
I try so hard to make sure that nobody knows who you are in relation to me. It's my number one goal. People will find out. We've met them 7 times where they'll find out, and it'll be like I finally hand them a business card, and they'll be like,
"Do you know Mike?"
I like when that happens often too. They're like, they look at us like
the janitor guy.
This is pure coincidence. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 54 of the Slightly Serious Sign podcast. This episode is voted number 1. I thought you were going to
in memory of GSG.
Jared Granberry voted us number 1. He said, and I quote, "Your podcast is the best podcast in the business." That was a direct quote. So I just read it to everyone here.
Stick it, Jeff. IT Supplies. Jared voted us number 1.
I keep getting, now that we've done this, almost a year. Well, we have done a year by the time people hear this. Yeah. That's what's crazy. So hopefully the live stream was awesome. I'm sure it was. Everything went smooth. We didn't even say anything controversial.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Well,
so we'll find out.
Legal hasn't gotten back to us yet.
Yeah. I mean, by the time you guys hear this, we might be fired. It's possible. So this might be the last you hear of us. So
it is a possibility.
It could happen.
Also, the other benefit, hopefully, fingers crossed. Well, definitely by the time this comes out, fingers crossed, this is the last time you see us in this office. So
you'll see us live here, right?
Well, this will be after that. This will be the last.
Oh, this is the last one. We'll have a new podcast studio.
Because this comes out in March. So by the time March comes out, if we don't have a new podcast studio by there, we mess something up real bad. So,
well, then you're going to be here to stay. If they're building the studio, you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
what? I mean, you're going to take the cactus?
It might be a little smaller. It might be a little even smaller. This room.
It's
definitely smaller than this room.
It'll be tight. For some people.
No room for the cactus.
Oh no, we can fit the cactus in there. It makes it more dangerous. The more narrow space you get in there, it makes it a little easier. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the live stream. Hopefully we didn't say anything too bad. Then nobody's listening by this point. But anyways, episode 54. I want to say thanks for coming on, Brian. Appreciate it.
Yep, glad to be here.
Brian.
This is probably the 10th one we've done where the person has had to drive less than, I don't know where you live. I just know where the company is located. So less than 45 minutes. I don't know how this keeps happening to us, but appreciate it. I'll let you kind of introduce who you are, where you guys work, and kind of what you guys do.
All right. Well, I'm the owner of USA Sign Frame and Stake. We make all kinds of different sign holders. Our tagline is that we don't make signs, we make the signs better. So we started out in Jenison, bought a small injection molding company with a couple of products, and it's grown now to over 30 products over the last 15 years. So we've got our own little injection molding plant over there in Zealand. And it just keeps growing.
Yelled at. You just started.
Yeah.
Well, all we have to do is get the mic set up
We need
perfectly.
to tighten the mic up a little bit. There we go.
A little too bouncy.
All right.
It might just be broken too, but so how long have you been doing this?
Started in 2008.
Okay.
Yep. The reason we started the company was I had buddies that were automotive injection molding, engineers, and I was at a shop and I'm like, what is that? We were actually doing sign work for their trucks and their new sign out front of their new building. And I'm like, what is that for? Isn't that an underground valve for like utilities? He goes, yeah, they make all kinds of stuff out of plastic that used to be steel. And the light went on and I'm like, well, could we make some of these sign products that we use at our shop? Like real estate frames and sign holders. And he goes, yeah, look at this. And it's all glass infused composite material. So people look at it and say plastic, but it's really almost half fiberglass. But we're able to quickly produce them. So that's how we got going.
Okay. And what did you do before this then?
I had 3 retail franchises for the sign industry.
Can you say what franchise?
Yeah, there was Signs Nows. I had 3 of them.
I think I can remember delivering to you in 04.
Yep. Yeah, that was way Division, back. It right? It was my in-laws' business, and they wanted to retire, and I'm like, that sounds like a good thing to do. So jumped in with both feet and started running it. And we did all kinds of stuff. That was back in the day when there wasn't even flatbeds. We got the first flatbed in North America from Colorspan, McDermott, back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we know digital, we know printing, we know vehicle wraps, all that stuff. So I kind of had a leg up on the industry to know what people would want.
Yeah.
Made it easier to start.
You can definitely tell, like, especially now with, which we'll talk about this later too, but with the amount of stuff that's getting imported in from China, you can tell how many of them are just like, hey, we make a similar product, we can also make this one, and then try and come to market with it. And a lot of times it's like just off, right? It's like the sizing isn't quite right. A lot of times though, I always find it funny when it comes over with just metrics. Like that's the only sizing they have. And you're like, okay, if you're going to make me do the conversion, this is not going to go well. I can already tell you that from the start. So, yeah, it's interesting to see people that come from the sign shop side of the business and then go into manufacturing. I think definitely have a leg up.
Well, I think it gives you a leg up because like you were mentioning that you know what the customers are wanting. Right. And you're thinking ahead that they should be able to use a different product and I should add this and add this. You're not thinking about these, but I know that you're going to need them eventually.
Well, yeah. And with steel, there's limits to what you can do. When you're injection molding, you can put in undercuts and, holders and different kinds of things. So you can slide in a frame a lot easier. There's no welding. You're shooting every feature into the product. So it's all integrated and it's colored all the way through. So there's no powder coating or welding or painting. And the number one thing we ran into when we had that new digital printer was you'd do a half a dozen real estate signs and it's this lady with her glamour shots, with her picture. It says, contact Betsy for your real estate, information. And you'd bolt the substrate in there and you put them in the car or your guy carrying them out to the car, the bolts would scratch the metal faces. Yeah. And so this one you
Next
can put in.
Betsy has a rubbed out
Betsy's got her eyes gouged out.
Like an 8th grade yearbook.
And now you got to make another one. And plus they rattle around in the car. Yeah. So yeah, we said, well, we can make a frame that'll hold substrates that there are no bolts to scratch when they're piled up together, you know?
So you kind of explained what you guys do, but can you cover some of the products that people, at least in our industry would be familiar with?
I was going to say, how many products do you currently carry right now?
Well, we manufacture all of them.
Okay.
So
is there?
There's 3 different types of coroplast sign stakes.
Okay.
There's the spider stake. And that's like golf outings with a die cut circle. It looks like a golf tee. It's the least expensive. They all have integrated steps to step them in the ground. And then we were approached by a company that said, we need something more durable. We want 2 ground entry points. It's got to be a spade. It's got to fit in soft ground, not blow over. So then we start making the extreme stake. And then you have people that go, well, it goes in the ground a little bit harder. We have hard ground here. What can you do for us on that? So then we did the Coro stake, which has got the high tensile wire that we had talked about earlier before the show. It's the super hardened high carbon steel. And so the wire looks like the other wires, but it's not. It's 5 times stronger for bend. And that helps it go into the hard ground. So you've got the Coro stake, the extreme stake, the spider stake. Those are the Coro products. And then we've got the real estate frame. But how do you make a real estate frame with all the different sizes? I mean, every mold is 6-figure.
Different sizes.
So we made the 18 by 24
the most common
frame, the most common. And then we did the same geometry as the Coro stakes. So you can snap that onto the top. So now you don't have a 6 by 24 rider. You can make a 8 by 24 rider, 10 by 24 rider. So it lets you expand that initial frame, the 18 by 24, and you can add side riders, top riders. So that was our way to address all the different sizes for the conventional real estate frame issue. So that worked good too.
That's interesting. So we made a video. It was Rick and I. This was a year and a half ago, probably, if not, on the Coro stake. And I think it was about this time of year that we physically put one in the ground. In the video, you can physically hear the audio of us like punching through the first frozen layer of the ground. Cause I was like, you could just put them in the ground anytime. Like it doesn't make any difference. And we just stabbed them through.
Yeah.
So when he says high strength, that's what they're talking about. Like literally the ground was frozen and we put a stake in the ground outside.
Especially with your weight putting on that. Ooh.
Well, yeah, it's true. I think I was like 20 pounds heavier too. So now maybe I won't be able to do it. I'm just kidding. It probably worked just fine.
Boy.
Yeah, the other advantage to that.
This harassment over here.
That hard wire has the other advantage too, that it doesn't bend as easy. So we're like, how are we going to quantify this claim? So the Auto Research Center down in Indianapolis tests stuff for the big 3. They have a wind tunnel. So we rented it and we took the stakes down there and we literally put them in the wind tunnel. We rented it for half a day. And then he's like, are these things going to hang on? Because we can't have them let go and go flying into the blades of the wind tunnel. I'm like, no, they'll hold on. So we kept dialing up the rheostat, and you can, it's 10, 20, 30, 35. He's like, I don't want to go anywhere. I go to 40. He's dialing the rheostat, and the sign's bending and flipping around in the wind. But what the best part is we did it right next to a standard 9-gauge wire. And when we turned the wind tunnel off, the wire was bent over and it stayed there, and ours went right back up. And we captured it on video. You can see it on our site. So it's like you had to prove that it's a superior product. And that picture's worth 1,000 words on that.
Well, in Michigan, you get weather, you get the wind here. I don't know if you remember, like 3 days ago, it was like howling.
Yeah, we were flying in.
Oh, you were flying in?
Yeah, we were.
We felt it.
We felt it.
Bouncing up and down on the plane.
You paid for the extra roller coaster ride?
I did. Yeah.
It was glad I was gone, though, because there was a big limb down in my yard right where I normally park. So
it was meant to be.
Lucky.
It was meant to be.
But yeah, so that's good to know, because we definitely, since we brought it on, we have seen people talk about, they fall over easier. But I think a lot of times, this is just kind of standard with our industry. Sometimes maybe they're just not quite doing it exactly the way it should be, right? Because I think with a step stake, with a regular standard step stake, oftentimes, you guys have done them too, right? Where you go to step them in the ground, right? And they only make it like 3 inches in the ground. You're like, good enough. I'm not going to get it any further. So I think they're familiar with that, where they're not thinking like, hey, I need to sink this. The wire needs to be all the way in the ground with these ones.
Right.
So they're just getting them barely in the ground, and then they blow over, and they're like, hey, is it blowing over? Be like, well, did you go all the way in the ground?
You see dirt only a 1/4 inch up on the stake. Like, oh, I wonder why it blew over.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too is you can make the best product in the world, but if you have soft, muddy ground and the wind is blowing back and forth, it's not the stake that's compromised. It actually makes a slot in the ground. It wows out a hole and makes a groove. So now it's leaning, even though the wire's intact. So that's why you use the extreme stake, because it's actually like a tent stake. You ever put up a tent like when you're camping, and that comes with those little teeny wires and that goes in the sand, like no problem, but it doesn't hold anything.
Yeah.
But you use the big plastic ones and it grabs. That's so you almost have to choose your geographic area. We have really hard ground, you're going to have to use the wire, but it's not going to move the dirt. If you have a beautiful golf course with, groomed lawns and it's nice and soft, and then you're going to want something more substantial than a wire as your only holder for the whole sign, which is cantilevered way up there.
Yeah.
So have you done any testing of like vehicle running over it?
Yeah.
Because I know I tested ours, the wire, and I accidentally hit it.
He said test. I was like, I don't remember running this test.
I kind of actually tested it, and it bent, and I couldn't get it back up.
Yeah. Yeah. So
when he says that, it's because he got in somebody else's car, and he was like doing like this, trying to look over the steering wheel. Couldn't quite see where he was going.
Yeah. Back in the day.
It was the truck, actually.
You can see the mirrors.
It was the big truck that you drive.
Yeah, back in the day, we actually stuck a board on the hood of the work truck, and we had them stuck in there, and we're driving up and down our industrial park with the signs on them, going back and forth. I hope the cops aren't coming, because you look out and there's signs across the front sticking up, and we're going 25, 30. Yeah.
That's funny. That's how we would test them here.
I know you had to have done it.
That is exactly how we would test up here.
Yeah.
This must be the Michigan way. We're just like, what's the most efficient and cheapest possible way I can test these stakes? This is going to work, right?
Well, what do they say? If you have a task and you want to get the most efficient way to do it, assign it to the laziest person. They'll figure it out.
Yeah. They call it like
that is true.
Like redneck ingenuity, you know, like it might not make any sense to you, but in their mind, it'll make perfect sense. It'll be a good way to test it. But yeah, I mean, besides like just blowing over in the wind, the one thing we talked about in the video too with it is, the thing you run into, like you were talking about it with, you put them in the car and they scratch the sign. That's one thing, right? But the second one is if you are going to use it for like, let's say golf outings is a good example, right? We do events where it's kind of like the same sponsors, right? So they'll just keep our signs, right? And then they'll reuse them again. But with regular frame or with regular step stakes, they just throw the step stakes away at the end of the event because they're
They're all
bent.
bent up.
Yeah, they're all bent up.
Versus if you were doing it with these, like that was the other thing I made is like, if you're going to reuse it, it looks the same as it did when I put it in the ground the first time. You can't even tell I used it unless there's dirt or in our case,
Dirt on the
snow.
bottom.
But
Yeah.
besides that though, it looks the same as it did before. And that I feel like is a huge benefit for people there's a lot of people that are reusing them, right? And which seems crazy because they're pennies.
I see
Which isn't really what we want either. We want them to buy new ones every year.
That's exactly right. Yeah. We talk about that a lot on this podcast. Like we don't want stuff built super two coat quality because we want them to buy it again. Like printers should expire in a year. Just buy another one
every 9 months.
Get your new flatbed.
Yep. Every year. Just
do you guys buy used ones? No, we don't.
We're like an iPhone right here. We only good for a year, then just make them die.
Get a new one.
Get another one.
We're sending out updates now.
Yep.
But yeah, like if you run into somebody who's using the same sign over and over again, like even if it's like you're talking like storefront, right, where they don't want to leave it out overnight for fear of someone coming and grabbing it, that's a way better solution than step stakes. So some of them are just putting them back in shape every day and then stomping them back in the ground.
I see them a lot in golf courses where they're reusing them. Venues, wedding venues, parties and private parties and all that, parking this way. So I see them starting to upgrade versus the wire, just a standard galvanized wire.
Yeah. Especially a big one like here, like in Michigan, at least, like for people that are selling like garage sale signs and it's not like year specific, right? If you're just like garage sale arrow, a regular step stake is a terrible use for that because next year you're going to bend all the legs out to get it back into shape.
Well, the seasonal farm stands, we see that they're just using it over and over. Every year the farm stand comes back out for fresh raspberries. It's the same stake year after year. I'm like, we made it too good.
Yeah, it was green the first year on the edge of the sign. By year 4, it's like a light tan color. Like, I don't know what happened here.
Well, it's only the frames, just so you people out there. It's just frames that we're talking about. We're not talking about signage.
Right.
So you have to get your own sign. Make your own sign.
The other thing I want to talk about, so you guys make these all here, right? Are you guys in Jenison still?
No, we built a brand new place in Zeeland.
Okay. How long have you been there?
Zeeland.
I think this is our 3rd year.
Okay.
Yeah, where we started out, it kept growing. You have one bay with 3 presses, and now we got 11 presses, 2 loading docks, and bridge cranes, and it's just way more efficient, better workflow, lets us grow.
Yeah.
It's a big white building, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think I've driven by.
We're by the Critter Barn. Looks like a dome roof.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fun. So we've been talking a lot lately in the last few episodes, at least, about products made in the States, right? With it being 2025, with the idea of tariffs coming from every possible direction at this point. Prior to that, though, you guys obviously were still just making them here in the United States. So how do you think that was feasible for you guys compared to a lot of the other ones that are coming from overseas or Canada?
Well, we're in a kind of a unique situation because you've got all these automotive supply places all over Michigan, tier 1, tier 2. There's tons of plastic coming up here for various components on cars. And there's a lot of scrap, short shots, purge pies, different things where the material is first cycle virgin material that, was a short shot. It didn't quite make the part. So you've got recyclers who are gathering this stuff, quarantining it by type of plastic. So we've got a really good feed stream of raw materials. Okay. And you're not going to have that if we're sitting in, Utah, but we happen to be right in the center of where all this plastic is. So we're able to get the recycled plastic reground that meets the spec we're looking for. And so we can just use that. So that's helped a lot because the plastic that we're buying is all recycled, post-industrial. Post-consumer, you can't do it.
Yeah. So we've talked about this at least a dozen times on people that have come in and offered us, hey, we have a green, we have I don't know. They use a whole bunch of different words now. We've gone away from green. Now we say, thank you, sustainable.
Were you in here when we said we only care about one color green?
Yeah.
No, I was not.
We only care about one color green. That's on the dollar bill.
Everyone wants green.
Yeah.
The kind that you can spend.
Yeah. Maybe $100 bill. I'll take that green.
I was going to say,
that gave us the edge. Yeah. The edge was that we can procure the material in a reliable supply stream at volume. So, we can... There's so much more than what we use.
Yeah.
You know, we go through maybe 80,000 pounds a month of material, which is a lot when you divide it into a stake.
Yeah.
But, and the whole thing now there's new bioresins out there. Like we had one company that does the pesticide lawn that is only natural, and they wanted compostable stakes.
Okay.
So, and it's made out of corn instead of oil. I mean, you still have the corn or soy resins, and instead of using, you can use calcium to stiffen it instead of fiberglass. There's options.
Can you eat it?
You can. Actually, my buddy actually molds dog bones that are made out of it, and the dogs gnaw on them. I mean, doesn't hurt them, and it's hard, but yeah, they're actually like made out of plastic, bioplastic. Huh. And then there's all these other things like compostable, biodegradable, different levels of how long it takes it to decompose. Yeah.
That's interesting. So, yeah, the point we're trying to make there is like sometimes you can have a green, sustainable product, and also it doesn't actually cost more money, which in this case, it may actually be cheaper in your case than making it new, right? If you had to buy the raw goods to make it.
Oh, yeah. It's a fraction.
And it's just the benefit of being in the right place with the right options.
So how long will it take to decompose? 7 years, 10 years on a stake like that?
Well, it also depends whether it has direct sunlight and whether it's got moisture. You mean on the compostable ones? Yes. Compostable is 2 years. That's the threshold. Okay.
The reason why I ask is because a lot of the banners that are it's 7 years. It's like 7 years in a waste.
The
That's
thicker,
really not
sustainable.
The thicker it gets, whatever the product is, the longer it takes, because it has to slowly get on the surface and start working.
That would be good for my yard. I have those little stakes because we don't pick them up. We just mow them over. So that way you know there's going to be a couple years to be gone.
It actually composts faster that way. The more times you mow them over, they just start getting smaller and smaller.
You're going to have nice green. I
don't have time to get off the mower to get those stakes out of the way. There's no time for that.
When you're laughing,
you just got to make sure the kids are inside before you go. Dad's going mowing. Might be stakes out there.
Or he could make just press a button and it's retractable.
Yeah,
down and then
it's fold.
Mow it.
Fold down.
Fold it right back up.
Oh, listen, they're retractable when you go over them.
The guy that comes has to spray every time. He's like, "Where in the world did my sign go?" It's just shredded.
Yeah, shredded.
It's like, I don't know what happened.
Well, that helps accelerate its decomposition when you get littler pieces.
He's really just doing the environment a favor. That's really what you're doing there. Yeah, they appreciate it.
Funny.
That's whatever gets in the way too. Yeah. Small children, doesn't matter.
Yeah. You know, I'm thinking lately that we keep hearing about PVC free, on the vinyl side of things. Mm-hmm. I think that substrate manufacturers should just start adding that label in. Like PVC free. There was never PVC in the first place, but it's such a buzzword now. It's like what's the word for like organic, when people found out that actually
it's not
it didn't mean anything at all, right? That's what everyone's just going to start putting PVC free on there, even though it never had it in the first place. Just
it's like organic cardboard. It's made from trees.
This is paper.
Yeah, paper.
I think
but everyone PVC free.
Yeah, everyone should just include those buzzwords just because you can. Just be like, this is also, if you didn't know, it's PVC free.
Well, what's the new buzzword from Michigan? Cage free. Okay, listen, they can't run everywhere. So like there has to be a size of that cage. Like, okay, cage free means they're not in here, but they're in
they're in a 10 by 10.
Because the biggest place is right off the highway. Like I never see chickens on the road. So they got to be
how many chickens are in that place?
How many?
Millions.
I know.
5 million.
Yeah, but here's Mike driving.
He's hoping there's one that got away.
I was like, oh, sorry. I really thought about it. Like they're not cage free anymore. Like we can get free chickens. Like they're going to be out by the highway, but apparently they're still
hasn't worked yet.
I guess maybe it's not fence free. It's cage free maybe.
Yeah, well, you'd have to define a cage.
Yeah, that's what I said. I mean, like, what's the cage mean?
They use the boxes instead.
Yeah. What do they use?
Yeah, right?
Because that's all natural.
They're in boxes versus cage.
Yeah, that's what I wondered.
PVC
with a little window.
Containers. They're in PVC free containers. That's what they're in now. That's funny as can be. So we kind of have talked about this already too, just to get back to the stakes in the frames. But what are kind of the benefits? We talked about obviously rigidity. Is there any other benefits of a fiberglass frame versus a metal frame?
Well, back in the day when we had the sign shops and we would get these boxes, usually there was a few broken welds. If you have 4 welds on a standard H welded wire, regardless of the size, there was always a few that had 1 broken weld. If you have 1 broken weld, it's kind of done. You can't sell it to the customer, but it's $1. So what are you going to do? Call you guys up? We threw so many of those things in the dumpster. It was just, that's just the way it is.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We got bigger fish to fry than worry about calling you for 3 broken steaks in a 50-count box. So we just throw them away. But we have the actual integrated step. I mean, there's actually a place to put your foot to put it in the ground, which helps. It's one extra, benefit of it. Because if you have hard ground, you're trying to get H-wire, you can't step on that crossbar. So that was one of the things we tried to do, is put that in there.
Do you know where when we're talking the 18 by 24s, where those compare currently, like when you're running into people buying them price-wise, where it compares to the metal ones?
Well, you were talking about tariffs. I mean, when COVID came, we were running 24/7, 7 days, round the clock. And the people who were buying a pallet or so every couple of weeks were buying 5-6 pallets, like they went from 1,000 a week to 15,000 a week.
Yeah.
And because they couldn't get the wires, they were stuck on boats somewhere out there. So, but we've always been within 5 to 10%, more than a standard welded 9-gauge wire.
Yeah.
And so, that's been what we've had to struggle with. It's like, we're not the cheapest, but we're not that much more. We're only maybe 10% more.
Yeah, we talk about that too on the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead, do your rant about buy local.
I do. I hate the term buy local more than anything, because the buy local, what you're saying without saying, when you say the term buy local, is, hey, I'm more expensive than them, but listen, I'm right next door to you. And I hate that.
No, we don't like that either.
Because what I think about it is I think what you're putting the onus on the customer to say, like, hey, you should spend more money because we're here. And I don't think that's their job. What you're saying is, and this is what I think what you're coming at too, is, hey, we may not be the cheapest option, but we're going to be close. And our product is X, Y, and Z better than that other product. Well, and not just, hey, we're here.
Yeah.
They always said, you got price, you got quality, and you got turnaround time.
Right. How fast can I get it?
But usually they say you can't get both. You can't get it dirt cheap, fast turnaround time, and really good quality.
We talked about that too.
You can get 2 of the 3.
You can get 2 of the 3, no matter what combination. And it works in pretty much any business model. But when people order our stuff, it's usually on the floor ready to go. And they get a tracking number the same day it leaves the next day. And it's shipping from here. It's not shipping from overseas. So that's a bonus. We think it's a better product. It's been tested. There's graphics that show it, but it's one of those things. It's only, instead of $1, it's $1.10. It's like, is that really where you want to economize to get that bid?
And a lot of times that comes down to who's buying, right? The bigger the sign shop you get into, the more that, not the shop, the more the person buying cares about those pennies, but the person out selling it and the person putting the signs together isn't the one that's like, I don't know why we keep using
I
this.
saved 10 cents each, but I broke 1 in 5.
Yeah.
Okay, you just lost your money.
The customer, if you set the 2 side by side, they're going to pick ours every time.
Yeah.
But they never get to make that call.
Yeah.
Because the purchasing person is deciding what their customers deserve. And we run into that at the trade shows. When we sit at the trade show, I go, oh, we buy H-wires. I go, is that all your customers deserve?
Yeah.
Have they made the call or do you make the call?
Did you ask them? Yeah.
No, 100%. It's the same thing. I agree with, I disagree with your analogy, because I believe in doing local. My wife does too. But when you talk about price, for instance, there was a game that we're trying to buy my nephew. It was $35 more to buy local.
Yeah.
That is just too much.
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
That's where it's like,
I can't do it if you're remotely close.
Yeah.
But if you're not close, 100%. Then no, we're not gonna.
I can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with us. We're not the cheapest on a lot of products.
Nope.
But we're close. We can deliver to you. We can get it to you next day.
We always hit 2 of the 3.
Yeah.
But
we try.
Here's the other thing we run into: this plastic. Because we can source it because of the automotive position that we're in. If you were going to make that product overseas, they're still even cheaper than me because the big plastic pellet manufacturers will sell like U.S. and in Europe at one price, and then what they can't sell, they sell other places. We've had people walk in and go, "Here, can you make this cup?" And the cup has more plastic in it than what they can get it molded into a cup and shipped from overseas. I can't even buy the material to make it for what they're getting it made and shipped for. So we are at a disadvantage. The other thing is we're paying a livable wage, holidays, vacation days, sick days. So we have to pay U.S. labor, and if you're going to keep people, you got to pay them well. So that's got to be factored in.
Pay the good people.
Yep,
Mike.
Huh? I didn't hear anything you said. I was gone.
He was falling asleep on that conversation.
I was out.
He wasn't listening. But no, 100%. And I mean, and we talk about you can get 2 of the 3, right? And then the factor really becomes how close are you on the third one, right? Yeah. So if you're quality and turnaround time, and then the third one would be price there. If you're close, then it's a question of how close are they on the other ones, right? If it's I can save 4 pennies, but I have to buy it in bulk, or I have to buy it and it takes 6 weeks to get to me. It makes it a lot easier to.
Yeah, we talked about that. The purchasing is the key person that really needs to go out with the people that are doing the installs, see how much how much labor it takes to do something or break something. They don't see that. They see I'm saving a dime. Yeah. It's like,
but you're saving a dime, but you are getting not the same product. So I look at it as if you're paying 10 cents more, but it's double the performance, then you're actually getting a good deal. Because if you had to build a steel counterpart, you would have thicker steel for the bottom, thinner steel for the top. It would cost more. It would be more shipping costs. So what you are getting the 3 with us, unless you want to settle for cheaper. Like, you want to buy this BMW for 10 grand, or you want to buy a Yugo for 9 grand? What do you want?
I look at the same thing. If you're going to buy a suit, where do you get your suit from? Walmart? Or you like Men's Warehouse?
Salvation Army.
Salvation Army?
They have good stuff sometimes.
I'm not the good person for this, but like if you're going to buy jeans, you're going to buy name brand jeans, you're going to buy nice jeans, or you're going to go buy the cheapest ones you can find. Or you can literally go down the aisle. Oh, these ones are a quarter less. Like, I mean,
we literally have been having this conversation since United came out, right? Where with United LEDs, the only product that is quote unquote lower price than our product isn't comparable in specs.
Right.
So you come in and say like, hey, we have a cheaper product. But then when you look at it, it's like, no, it's really like if you do the math, it's not cheaper. But on paper, it is cheaper for you. And I think with the economy's step stakes, you run into the same problem where on paper, it's cheaper. But if somebody actually did the math and was like, hey, here's how many we broke in a year, right? And even if it was, 8% more, you're like, okay,
I'm only one piece. I mean, I'm only one piece of the finished product. That's why we say we don't make signs. We don't make graphics of any kind. But if you're going to buy a really nice, right Pantone, beautiful 4-color process, really good sign, and you go, let's just give me one of them cheap wires. We'll throw it out there. It's like, really? That's where you're going to try and save? I mean, you just did this beautiful sign and it blows 20 miles an hour and your sign's gone because you saved that extra 10 cents on that steak. It's like, but that's a hard thing to convince people, because people go, we were at a trade show and one of the big manufacturers of color printers. He's like, well, the steaks are what, like 15 by 10 by 15? I go, that's not a steak. Well, it's a half of a economy steak. I'm like, well, then your sign's on the ground. He goes, well, yeah, but we just give them away with our sign. I'm like, well, you're making a really good sign and you're giving them away a half of a steak that puts your steak on the ground. I mean, so it's an education process. You got to give your customers something that makes their sign work.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing you're running into on the purchasing side of things is we joked about it's like 10 cents, right? But when they're looking at it in the spreadsheet, it's 10%. They're like, I can save 10%. Be like, we're talking about $1 to $1.10. I don't think you understand where we're at here, right? Yeah. Like you can round that into your sale price. Like that is not a lot of money. So anyone doing any amount of volume on yard signs of any type, especially, I mean, obviously we just had, I'm sure you guys were busy with an election year last year too. So, but coming up on those, I think that's something to be aware of, especially when you have that kind of money coming in, right? And I mean like government money type jobs where the price doesn't really matter. And if you just offered it to them, they would just say yes. Like that's what you said. If you get them in front of them, they're going to say yes with that 100%. Like that's what I think even Tate and I were talking about it today in the warehouse, where I was like, I don't understand why more people don't buy them. Like, and all it came down to was like, they would sell them at the counter where it would just be like, hey, we have a new one. Here's what it looks like. Would you like that? And at least 50% of the time it's like, yes. And the other 50% of the time is the person picking up doesn't make the decision. So they say no, right? I'm just here like if you have the decision maker and you just put the two in front of them, it's like, here's your two options. And be like, is it more expensive? And when we brought them on, it wasn't. It was literally, it was like, these are the same price. Like if you want these ones or these ones, same thing.
I think you guys offer them, right? In Coral Pack.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have them in a Coral Pack.
We keep them,
and they're the same price right now.
Same price.
So 100 blanks and 100 steaks are same price right now as a H steak on our site.
But see, they when they ask for a wire, you guys give them what they ask for.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. So they need to know that it exists.
Yeah.
That's the issue. They need to know that it's out there.
Yeah. And especially with a product that's, I mean, been around forever, right? People have been buying step steaks since, the invention of the printing press. So,
well, you know where they came from, right? The step steaks. When I remember when there used to be the sign painters before the old, what was it? The little plotter, the
Gerber,
the Gerber plotter. Before that, there were sign guys painting signs, and what they were using is the masonry reinforced wire. They used to call it ladder wire. And now they just take that ladder profile and cut it into the 30-inch pieces. But that's what it was originally. It wasn't even made for the sign industry. It just was a cross-sell opportunity, and it blossomed. And it happened to work because that whole cut graphics came on fast, in the early 80s.
I'm so happy I said the word Gerber before Domingo did. I feel like I should get a point on the board.
When you said Gerber, I'm like, well, he's talking about the 4As.
It was the Super Sprint. Model. You weren't even born when they had a Super Sprint.
Nope.
It was a keyboard with the cutter right behind it.
I've seen them though.
And it had a monitor.
And it was fast.
Where you had to load in the font cartridges into them?
Yes.
That was the 4B.
Oh, so before that one.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Domingo is Mr. Gerber.
Let's see. This font is okay. Havelica. No, I don't want Havelica.
And then the funny part is he's making a joke. They used to load the fonts in and cut vinyl, and then when that came out, they still weren't using cut vinyl. They were just using it to paint.
Oh yeah, they make stencils.
How it was sold. Literally how it was sold was they were literally cutting. They weren't cutting vinyl. They were cutting stencils and still painting it.
And that's when they came out with the.
What happens if we just leave the vinyl up there? Like with the part we weed out. What if we leave that part?
Yeah, do it the other way.
Leave it the other way. And someone's like, genius.
And that's when they started selling a lot of stencil.
Yeah.
And then they came out with the Sprint. And then they came out with the GS15, HS15,
Super Sprint,
GSX.
Dang, that's crazy.
Don't get me on Gerber.
Listen, that was all before I was born even.
Yeah, that's old. That's old school right there. So with you guys are doing, the last thing I want to talk about, that's why I asked you before if you guys were doing ISA, unrelated to your products though. With the shows, do you guys see any changes with that? And by that, I mean, what we're finding is there's a lot of people pulling away from trade shows or dropping back out of trade shows. Are you guys still finding like the ROI to do those shows is still there?
We're doing it basically for product awareness. We're not going to the shows to sell stuff. The first shows we did back 10 years ago, the third, fourth year in a row, people are like, keep up the good work. Good to see you guys.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, we don't need to be here. So we went a few years and didn't show up anymore.
Yep.
Because, you've got the people that are distributors who know about us, and it was fine. But we still, we've had new products since then. The extreme steak, the coral steak. We do some other steaks too for the polybag sign industry and the posting sign steaks. There's some crossover that there's some opportunity there for those big steaks to do the solid substrates for the bandit type signs and the lawn care leave behind signs. Yeah. But you'll see it in the next couple of years. It's coming. But we noticed that I don't think there's the volume of attendees that there used to be, is, like parades and parades of sign shop owners going through there. It would be the owner who has multiple locations coming through to see if there's anything new, or they're there specifically to see a big piece of equipment that they're considering purchasing. But we don't really see it like back in the day.
Yeah.
So
well, I think this goes back to, I think you should be there, just because it goes back to our same talk we've had before, where you're losing so many distributors that would go out and show your product, that you almost have to go out and show it yourself, because all the, like, well, one of the main distributors too is mostly just me too. Like, oh, what do you sell? Okay, I do too. I can sell it to you cheaper. I mean, that's their whole model. And now you're like, when you have a new product, who tells them? They aren't going to tell you.
No.
So it's us. And now you have to go, you actually have to, market to the end user so they can call that customer and say, no, I really need this. And then they're going to call you and direct ship it or whatever.
And the ISA goes back and forth, Vegas, Orlando, back and forth. So you're getting West Coast opportunities and East Coast opportunities generally.
Yeah.
So, you're really only making contact with people who decide to attend the show every other year.
Yep.
So you kind of have to be there, show them the samples. We had people come through and go, wow, I didn't know about that. I'm like, geez, we've been doing this for 15 years. Really?
Yeah.
Who is your distributor? Yeah. And usually it's somebody that's, out of state, and they're like, no, they've never showed it to us. I'm like, well, we've sent them 500 free samples to pass out. Obviously they sold them instead.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. We didn't get 500.
Yeah, you did.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you did.
I didn't come across my desk. I got a yard sale coming. I need some.
Sales reps hand them out like candy.
And you'll be selling them to your neighbors.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
I know a guy next door needs them.
We just ask because I know trade shows for us has been kind of a big talking point the last, 12 months at least. So we're just kind of looking at it. And if anyone's listening in terms of that don't exhibit or do exhibit and are looking at it.
I think we are going to do Print United, though. I think we're going to set up our podcast booth at Print United, because that's kind of how we're like, we just went to a Fast Sign show, and that was kind of, people come up to us, oh, the podcast guys. So like now more and more people know.
We had one guy come up and thank us. I still have absolutely no idea who he is or what he works for, because it was before the show. And we both looked at each other like, what did it say he works for? I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. Don't know how he found us. Nothing.
So the product adoption thing is really difficult too, because we've been at a few franchise shows.
Yeah.
And you come through and people are like, oh my gosh, these are awesome. I'm going to go back and tell my boss, can I take one with me? And they go back and you follow up, and the decision maker hasn't seen it, or it got lost or whatever. And they're so busy doing artwork approval and installs and covering for people that are gone that it just disappears into the work, because you're a creature of habit. You do what you've always done.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I asked about the shows, but I mean, the whole reason you came on our radar to do the podcast is what he saw your,
I saw
your Facebook ads and then shared them with me. And now that's all I get to see are US Sign.
Yeah, I pay a lot of money to do all that stuff.
That's what I said to him. I said, look, every time I run Facebook, he keeps coming on Facebook. So I said, call him, see if he wants to come on the podcast. I said, because let's help push this.
Get your money's worth.
Let's help push this out, So yeah, it was me calling him, say, hey, get him on the podcast. Like every time I pull up Facebook, your ad was coming up. I'm like,
I don't know much about it, but Blue and our web guy do, and they're like, yeah, if you say the word sign stake, you'll see our ad in a couple of days on your iPhone. I'm like, how does it know? But the same thing, I'm looking for a new outboard motor. All of a sudden it's like, how does it know I'm looking for an outboard?
Yeah.
But so we had to tap into that technology just to build awareness, and it works.
Yeah, for sure it's working. I mean, I only see them now when I get on, so it's obviously working.
You guys, that made my day.
Yeah.
You know what? I love it.
It's good.
Yeah, so that's how it all came about. Was just me just like, I kept looking at it. I'm like, and I remembered you when I saw you. I'm like, oh, that's the Signs Now division guy.
Yeah. But I bring that up to say, like, you're talking about like awareness, and like, people like us are not going out there and promoting product. And that's the conversation we've been having with vendors is like, what are you doing? Like, right. Is there anything, anything inbound? Like we can sell your product, but it's hard to sell a product that nobody's seen before, right?
Yep.
If they've seen it before though, and then we also are like, yeah, we also have it, way easier to do that the soft sell versus like here's a new product you've never seen before. Cold. You guys should buy it.
Well, we used to, when we had the sign shop, so I don't remember who it was, but we had a Wensco rep that showed up at our shop at least once a month.
Yeah. We still do that.
Yeah. But those are the guys that could be carrying the product and going, hey guys, here's something better. It doesn't cost that much more. But again, people get busy. There's challenges.
Well, that's what we look at. We have, what do we say? How many active SKUs?
It's already up to 19,000 now.
We have 19,000 active SKUs. It's matters in mind share.
Is that X-Acto cutters and squeegees?
Everything.
Okay.
That's anything that's marked stockable.
We still got paintbrushes.
Yeah, we still got
stencil.
Yeah,
we still got it. If you're out there,
we don't have those malls anymore.
We're doing a show
and we don't have the
that.
easels.
We're doing a show for that, for paintbrushes and stencil.
We are?
Yeah, the Sign Museum one.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, that's right. We are doing that.
So
we're doing a show for paintbrushes and paint and remember the malls and the easels, all that stuff.
Yep. Luckily for us,
Pounce wheels.
Yeah, luckily for us, Judy, big supporter of the Sign Museum. So when I say doing a show, it's not a whole lot of cost involved in that. They're pretty nice to us at this point, but that'll be a fun one to do because it'll be very different from the shows that we normally do. Where these people have been doing it a long time.
Listen,
there's not going to be any young guys there. That's for sure. Yeah. And
you never know. There could be.
There should be. I mean, at this point, they're going to need. I mean,
that's what we're saying. The next generation needs to be there.
Hey, I think it's all going to come back. People aren't going to want cut vinyl and digital anymore. They're going to want handmade.
Hand.
Yeah, I mean, and we've been saying that with LEDs, right? Like we're like, yeah, we'd love to sell you LEDs, but
do you think
neon for sure is coming?
Do you think they're still going to test the brushes the same? Because you used to walk into a shop, they lick it, like look at it. No, I don't want it. You walk in the next shop, hand them the same brush. That dude would lick it. Yeah, I'll take it. Like, you just licked it after the last guy licked it.
Yeah, I'll take four of those.
They didn't tried and true method. Okay.
Yeah, lick it.
Well, that's how you test wire, right?
You lick it, see if there's any outlayers.
Five.
Well, that's part of our quality control. Every 20 shots, you just take that up and go.
Still hard. Bite it.
Yep, that's the hard one.
Yep, it's working still.
It's both sides though, just to make sure.
Have you seen Bob? No, he lost his denture in one of those things.
It's a very scientific process.
It's like the old Western of the gold coin.
Yeah. See if it's soft.
Yeah. Well, we do the same with every one of our steaks. Put it in the box.
So good.
Yeah, those little chocolates.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you get any that have like little dings on the bottom, that's what it was. The test
those
one.
Are bite marks.
Those are bite marks.
Just make sure they're still good. So, well, I appreciate you coming on. That's a good way to end it. The last question I always ask, what do you think sets your guys' company apart from some of your competitors in the market?
We don't really have a competitor that makes fiberglass reinforced different kinds of wire for different applications. You either buy a wire counterpart or you buy ours. So we like to think the wind tunnel testing, proves out that it is more rigid. They got different kinds of ground entry points, whether it's one or two or steel or plastic, composite. But I don't know. I like to think that we're American made with American labor. We always have them in stock. We aren't waiting for them to get off a ship. There's no back orders on anything. I just think we do a good job of it. We try really hard because the only thing we really have to sell is service at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
we talked about this in another podcast, but you can't buy a container of spider steaks.
Oh yeah, you can.
There's a reason for it though, because we don't put them in containers in the United States.
Right.
They don't float.
Yeah. What's that?
That's Lenny's quote, right?
Yeah. Lenny said they don't float.
Yeah.
They're here in the States.
Yeah, exactly.
They never float.
They never float.
So, U.S. made, sustainable, PVC free.
Yes, they are, because we don't use PVC.
Cage free.
Cage free, PVC free, sustainable, green, U.S. made.
Well, and
better quality.
Technically, if it's repurposable, that's even more green because it's a durable enough product that you can use it over and over again, which is not good for me, but
not good for us either.
Yeah. We think they're only one-time use.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and throw them out after one time. They might be in good shape, but you never know.
Your county says it's illegal to use them twice because they might blow over the second time. So you should just get new ones.
Yep.
Don't look it up though. Okay. Just take my word for it.
Buy all you want. We'll make more. Wait, someone already used that. Okay.
Well, appreciate you coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, you guys. Appreciate it.
This is a great conversation.
It wasn't that far of a drive, so I'll come back anytime you want.
Perfect.
Good deal.
That's good to hear.
Good deal.
Well, thanks. Appreciate it. Domingo, I'm glad you could come back on. It's been a few weeks.
Apparently.
So people probably missed you a little bit.
I guess so.
I was going to ask if he's on the live, but that already happened 2 weeks ago.
They'll know. He might not know, but they'll know. So thanks. Appreciate it. Hopefully you guys found this episode helpful, and we'll see you in the next episode. So
thanks.
See ya.
Thank you.